Some days it's hard enough to focus on making it through the current day with our kids, let alone the rest of the week, month, or year. What about their future after middle school and high school? When are we supposed to start thinking about the college process for our kiddos? And what do we need to think about? Let's find out in today's episode. Hi, welcome back to Project Parenthood. I am your host, Chelsea Dorsage, licensed marriage family therapist. I am here to join you on your conscious parenting journey, bringing more curiosity, openness, acceptance, kindness, and non judgment along the way. My goal is for us to accept what is out of our control, commit to improving our parenting life, discover better outcomes for ourselves and our family. Today, I'm so excited to have Becky Hanson on our show. She's an independent educational consultant and owner of Beck Consulting. It's based out of Los Gatos, California, and she is dedicated to helping students and families in the Bay Area with a special focus on the South Bay navigate the college search and application process. She received her Bachelor of Science in Journalism from Cal Poly SLO, her Master of Arts in Communication from USC, and her college counseling certificate from UCLA. At Beck Consulting, Becky's primary objective is to guide students and families in finding the right fit and match schools while ensuring a low-stress and realistic approach to the college application process. She empowers students to take ownership of their college search by encouraging them to research and craft a balanced and thoughtful college list. Becky believes in starting the application process early, allowing students to make informed decisions and avoid the last-minute stress. In her free time, Becky enjoys working out and visiting colleges across the country to stay up to date on the latest trends and opportunities. She's been married to her husband, Tommy, for 21 years and is a proud mother of three, Elle, 19, a sophomore in college, Brooke, 17, a high school senior, navigating the college application process, and Cade, 13, an eighth grader. Becky's family is rounded out by her two adorable French bulldogs, Sarge and Tank. Becky's approach to college consulting is centered around honesty, realism, and student empowerment. She believes that every student deserves to find their perfect college match and is dedicated to providing personalized guidance and support every step of the way. With her own family's experiences navigating the college process, Becky brings a unique perspective and understanding to her work, allowing her to provide compassionate and expert guidance to her clients. All right. Hello, Becky. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi, I'm so excited to do this with you.
So fun. So as I was reading, I was thinking about how you encourage this process to start early. I think about how these days it's like the joke that once you find out you're pregnant, you start putting your kid on preschool like wait lists, right? Like, so is this a similar thing as we're looking at colleges? Like, how early are we talking?
I mean, yes and no. Yes, it is similar because I do encourage the process to start in its infancy when students are in their freshman year of high school.
Okay.
But it's a slow burn. And what I mean by that is the reason I like it to start early is because there is just this level of exploration and research that I really believe in order to find these right fit and match schools that students need. And it's really hard if you're just trying to start this process as, late into your junior year or even your senior year. You're not really what I like to say, designing your future. You're more just like drifting into it. You're probably just throwing down colleges that you hear people talking about at school or your parents want you to apply for. You're not really, as a student, finding what is best for you, both socially and academically. So I do encourage at least a research phase of this endeavor to start freshman year.
I love that. So it gives you that time to actually kind of play around and explore what it is, not only that you want or need or looking for, but what then are other places that offer that, right? Just so you're not settling.
It's kind of like a period of dress up, right? You're looking at, first of all, you're evaluating all these different college qualities. Mm-hmm. There are over 4,000 colleges in this country alone. Let's not even talk about international opportunities. And they're all so different. So it's looking at these different qualities and trying to see which qualities align with the way you like to learn, with the way, you are more inclined socially, and with other sort of passions, goals. We want all of this to be streamlined in your college search and finding the schools that are going to pull out the best in you. Or again, these traits or these qualities in these schools. So that takes time to figure that out. And, I encourage families to start the research process early, to get on different college campuses early. And I really believe that students learn just as much from the experiences where, say, they went to a college and they realized it was not at all the right fit for them. That is almost just as valuable as going to a college and realizing this is a great fit for me. You just learn so much on both ends. And hopefully all of this guides you to the space where you can really create a list of schools that matches what you're looking for.
Okay. So if someone were to seek out a college consultant like you, what would they expect to kind of gain from that, or what kind of support would that look like?
So there's consultants come in all shapes and sizes.
Okay.
So there are consultants out there that you can hire just to help, craft the list, or to help the student with their essay writing part. I'm really an all encompassing service. So consultants like me that operate the way I do on comprehensive packages, I'm sort of nuts to bolts with my students. So first of all, I only take a certain amount of students per class.
Okay.
I cap it off at a certain level just because I really want to give all of my students the attention they deserve. So I don't want to overload myself too much. Freshman and sophomore year, again, what that looks like with me, at least, is we're in that exploration phase. Okay. So we are talking about different college qualities. I'm encouraging these students to partake in different college opportunities. So that could be this college X is coming to their high school. So I would encourage them to go and listen. Or, if they're going because they have a soccer tournament in San Diego, hey, well, you should tack on these college visits while you're in San Diego and go look at these schools. So we're playing around freshman and sophomore year with exploration. Okay. The other thing we're playing around with freshman and sophomore year is a little bit of passion and career exploration. Okay. So something that I'm sure a lot of parents have heard about is the activities list, right? So the activities list is very important in how admissions work in the United States. So most colleges do something called holistic admissions, meaning they're not just looking at the student's transcripts and their GPA, they're looking at them holistically. So that includes things like their activities list, that includes things like their essays, letters of recommendation from their teachers, and in some cases, test scores. They're looking at all of these factors to make a decision. So the activities list is really one area where you can empower the students and families to really create something amazing there. It isn't fully in their control. So I start with my younger students, my freshmen and sophomores, building this activities list. And I'm looking primarily for three things. And so we talk about these three categories. One is make sure you have community involvement. Right. That could be volunteer work, or that could be just in any sort of involvement in your community. This could be through your church. This could be through your school, whatever it is, through your soccer club, any sort of involvement in your community. The second is leadership. So having some sort of leadership on your activities list. It does not have to be a title. Leadership is so much more than that. So engaging in anything where you're taking initiative. And the third component of the activities list is something called intellectual curiosity. So this major exploration comes in, or career exploration. So it's showing colleges, let's just say that you are thinking you wanted to be a biology major. So it's showing colleges why that makes. So if I were advising a future biology major, I would encourage them to not only take the most rigorous science classes they could at their school and hopefully achieve good grades in it, but also think outside the box. So that could be anything from finding an internship, or maybe they're getting to do something that is correlated with the biological sciences. Or it could be a passion project surrounding, or independent research project surrounding some area in the biological science. Or it could be taking even a class outside of school, or engaging in a pre-college programs. There's endless opportunities to show this intellectual curiosity, but you're basically just linking what you do outside of school to what you intend to do in college and beyond.
Gotcha. So it demonstrates that basically you're serious about this major, and that your actions and behaviors and engagements, like you said, your curiosity throughout your high school is going to reflect that this is actually an avenue. You're not just pulling a major out of a hat and saying, I think I'd be okay here.
Exactly. That you've put some thought into this, and the colleges, it's kind of a way for them to take you seriously, right? You're giving them the evidence that they need to show why you're putting this on your application.
Okay. Yeah. So I would never have guessed, when you were 3 categories, I'm like, what is that third one? And even the leadership, I was like, okay, that's really cool that like you said, it doesn't have to be a title, but just how are you demonstrating that?
Yes. And typically when you're a freshman and sophomore, it's much easier. We always start with the community involvement because that's typically the easiest.
Right.
And sort of go, leadership oftentimes is not going to come for the student maybe until they're in that junior year. And same with intellectual curiosity, because sometimes it takes the student a little bit to figure out what they're even passionate about.
Right.
14-year-old freshmen may not know yet. They're still, exploring. So this is why we have this exploration phase. So that's what you could expect freshman, sophomore year is kind of working all those pieces. Junior year, we're still, being very serious about our college research, investigating different qualities, hopefully sort of honing in on the list, which will ultimately be where the student's applying. But we start to incorporate some other pieces, right? So junior year, is the year of diagnostic testing for the majority of students. We're sort of in this funny landscape with SAT, ACT, where some schools have gone test blind, like all the public schools in California. But a lot of schools across the nation are reverting back to test mandatory.
Okay.
Then you have this funky space in between called test optional, which means that you can choose whether or not you want to submit your test score. But even within this realm of test optional, what's really happening is some schools are becoming now test preferred.
Okay.
So it gets to be this very complicated, complex process. And so my bottom line recommendation is every student, until they have their list finalized, which typically they don't have finalized junior year, should just they have a test score.
Right.
We don't want to anyone from their options down the road.
That makes sense.
So that's the first half of junior year. Second half of junior year, you're working on all of the pre-application things. So this would include building your resume, brainstorming for a multitude of your college essays, starting to outline some of the major essay, which is the personal statement. And then start that summer before senior year is a lot of essay writing.
Wow.
And then senior year up until deadlines, it's more helping students navigate the actual applications and holding workshops. And this is how we fill out this application and, doing things like that. So that's sort of the nuts to bolts progression of how it would work with a consultant. Again, I'm more of a comprehensive consultant, but there are consultants out there that you can just hire for bits and pieces of
specific steps along the way, right? Essay writing or, because I'm assuming when you are also supporting, I know that you spend so much time visiting these campuses and you're so up to date on everything. So it's you're actually able to provide that wealth of information, knowledge to say okay, you're kind of, this is what you're into, or this is kind of your learning style. These schools might fit what you're looking for. Is that kind of?
Absolutely. And also figuring out some colleges out there have just incredible, 3+1 programs or 4+1 programs. So a 4+1 program, I'll give you an example. The University of Kentucky has this amazing program. It's actually a 4.5-year program, but it's basically where you could graduate in 4.5 years and have your BSN, which is your Bachelor of Science of Nursing, and Bachelor's in Public Health in 4.5 years. Right. So there's a lot of colleges out there that have these very specialized, niche sort of opportunities. Yeah. And unless you know to pursue them, it's really hard to figure out. Right. But that's something, in my opinion, to graduate in 4.5 years with 2 bachelor's degrees.
Absolutely. Well, especially with nursing too. That's a tough program. People are usually navigating that after a community college and it's just I've watched so many people go through a lot of hoops to get there. How neat.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and then is this, I guess I wonder if parents are, granted whatever is available in their area or what they're able to provide, or pay for, but like, is this research you can kind of do on your own from the computer, like kind of exploring these colleges?
I mean, absolutely.
Okay.
Listen, it doesn't, what I do is a lot of it just comes from experience, but a parent could absolutely do their best to navigate this.
Okay.
It does. They shouldn't be afraid to reach out to college admission officers and ask a lot of questions.
Okay.
So how a parent, let's just say their child was interested in a certain college, typically you can find out who your admissions officer would be. Most admissions officers are broken up by region.
Okay.
So let's say, if you're in the Sacramento area, and you would look for on the admissions page, who was the admission officer for that region. And then you can go ahead and probably even better for the student to email them actually. Okay. But for certain things, especially if it has anything to do with financial aid, they're wondering about that. I think it's okay for the parent to email the admissions officer and ask.
Got it. Okay. So so every college will have an admissions officer, and that's kind of where you're going to start with in terms of questions, and anything specific that is beyond them, they'll point you to that direction, I'm assuming.
And then other than that, I think it's just helping your child navigate and explore different college qualities, right? Yeah. So for example, is your student able to sit in a big lecture hall and absorb information just from listening, right? Or is your student the type of student that is going to do better in a smaller class size where the professor is engaging more with the students? Mm-hmm. So how does your student best learn? What kind of academic support is your student going to need? And then there's like the social side of it. Is your student, do they want to feel like they're in more of a tight-knit community, or do they like the feeling of being part of a big school? There's so many different things that affects the student's ability to be successful in their learning environment. So as a parent, just knowing how your child thrives, you want to look for college qualities that is going to match that. So that's just super important. And the other really important thing too that a parent needs to do is when you're cultivating this list, right? Mm-hmm. The list of schools you're applying to, which in today's age, I recommend to my students, it's best to apply to between 12 and 15 schools. Okay. But the key to that list is balance. So I'm sure you've heard about the stories about the kid that has the 4.2 that didn't get in anywhere. Right. And, they're all so, college admissions is terrible these days. Well, I mean, it's tricky these days, but I can tell you without a doubt that student didn't get anywhere because they did not have a balanced list. Okay. They probably applied to 12 what we call reach schools, right? Okay. So we basically, in creating a balanced list, there's 3 categories. There's your reach schools, which I'm just going to use basic numbers, but let's just say a reach school is, as a student, you have a 25% chance or less of getting in. Okay. Then you have your target schools. That means you have about a 50-50 chance of getting in. Okay. Then you have your, some people call them safeties. Yeah. I prefer to call them likelies. Likelies. You have your likely schools. That's like a 75 chance or higher of getting in. Okay. You need a balance of all 3 of those. So you absolutely want to stretch yourself and have some reach schools on your list. Yeah. But if you have all reach schools on your list, that's when the scenario of the 4.2 not getting in, that's when that happens. The art is all in the list. Got it. So you want to have a balance of reach, target, and likelies. Okay. And I also think you want to have a balance of cost of attendance, right? You don't want to apply to private, expensive schools. Mix in some, public schools or schools where you think you might earn significant merit aid. Okay. I also really encourage my students to have geographic balance. So what I mean by that is sometimes I get students that are like, I want to go to school in the South. Yeah. I only want to apply to schools in the South. I just don't think that's a smart idea because, again, these are still teenagers. Right. They're growing and changing. And the people they are when they're applying to schools, which is typically in the fall of their senior year, and the person they become by the time they commit, which is typically spring of senior year, can be totally different. Right. So you want to have some cushion for that growth and development that may happen. So again, balance in geography too, I think is really important in the list. Okay. I love that. So yes, I love the target,
the reach and the likely, having that balance of, even like you said, cost in terms of, just what is realistic of whether we can even be able to afford to go here if we can actually get in.
Right.
And then geography. I like that, just to have, to not settle in just one area. So even if, do you recommend that, let's say if you're a California native your whole life, do you recommend branching out of California too?
Yes, and California is tricky. Okay, so we have two amazing public school systems in California, and because we're the most populous state, and because of some other factors that I would be happy to talk to you about if we have time, it can be hard for kids to get into a lot of public schools in California.
Okay.
So I feel like, again, to create that balance and to even get some of these likelies on your list, you sort of have to look out of state. Okay. It doesn't mean you can't apply to a bunch of California schools,
right?
But to round this out and to make sure that you are going to have some fantastic options at the end of the day, you will probably, as a California native, have to look out of state to find that balance.
Okay. Any suggestions or ideas for if you are looking at a state and it's maybe not feasible for you? Like, I know it's an invaluable experience to just stand on the campus and get around there. But I remember thinking, like, even when I was, 25 years ago, whatever, just there's only so many areas I could visit. Like, those realistic, right? That, just with schedules and finances. But how do we navigate that? Like, in terms of if it's just like, we want to balance that application list and have some geography balance, but if we're unable to kind of get there.
Well, one of the great things that came out of COVID is the virtual tour. Oh. So almost every college is offering some sort of virtual tour.
Okay.
So that's a great way, because obviously, it's really hard to get to the places across the country and it's very expensive. So absolutely take a virtual tour. Okay. So that's always an option. Another way that is really good for students to learn, and I recommend even as early as sophomore year, is say you're interested in a college that's far away. I'm just going to use one as an example. Let's use Tulane. Yeah. You're interested in Tulane, but you cannot get to New Orleans. I thought of it because I'm wearing green. Yes. They have online information sessions all the time. Okay. So if you think you're really might be interested in Tulane, on paper, it seems great, like a great match. You just can't get out to New Orleans. Sign up and register for an online information session. Both the parent and the student can attend, and that's a great way to start learning more without investing a ton of money in travel. But I do recommend sort of how I gave the example of if you're playing in a soccer tournament and you're here, or you're on a family vacation. Yeah. I mean, maybe that's not what you want to do on a family vacation, but if you're in the vicinity of a college and you have a high school age kid, stop by and take the tour. Right. Because that's just a great way to for the student to learn, and for you not to really have to go super far out of your way to give your child these college research experiences. Right. You can start those two things at least very early on in high school. My 8th grade son has already been on many college tours, and it's actually been great for him. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No, that makes sense. So even if it's not a school that, say, you would envision on your list, it at least gives you the real-time experience of walking on a campus, maybe even taking note of like, oh, this seems really small for me, or this is way too big for me. And then using that to compare to future.
Oh, absolutely. Again, it goes back to, I really believe that even if you walk on a campus and it is not at all what you want, it is still a valuable learning experience, because you are now learning what you don't want, which is just as important as what you do want.
Absolutely.
So yeah, anytime. I even recommend, so I'm in the Bay Area, and so my students that just don't have the time or the means to travel to all these places, which a lot of people don't, is to go to your local school. So I tell my kids, we're very close to Santa Clara University. Go tour Santa Clara. It's in your backyard, and get the feel of what a medium-sized private school feels like. Right. Then you could go to UC Santa Cruz or San Jose State. Right. That's a large public school. You could even drive to St. Mary's Moraga, and that is going to be a small private school. So you could go to USF, and that's going to be a small or medium, a very urban school in the city. How did that feel? Like being in a city? So you can create these experiences, not necessarily with schools that you think you might apply to, but you can sort of mimic what it might feel like. Okay. If you're interested like Northeastern in Boston, but you can't get to Boston, go to USF, right? Very urban school.
Yep. That makes sense. Yeah. And then I'm assuming when you said those information sessions that are online, those are live, most of them, right? I take it like it's like a Zoom.
A lot of them.
Right. Where you can ask questions and they'll have, okay.
Yes. They do have some pre-recorded ones too that you can find. It just depends on the school.
Okay.
But I would say, I'm probably going to open up a can of worms with this topic, but there's something called demonstrated interest that not every college participates in, but there is a good amount that do.
Okay.
And what demonstrated interest is colleges are basically stalking you, for lack of a better word. What they're trying to do is they're trying to protect their yield rate. So what a yield rate is I'm just going to use small numbers for this. Okay. Let's go back to Tulane. Okay. Let's say Tulane accepts 100 students. Obviously they accept way more than that, but we're just going to use 100 students. They accept 100 students into their freshman class, and 30 of those students accept them back. So they commit. That would be a 30% yield rate. Okay. So a lot of what goes into all these rankings, like US News Report and all these US News and World Report, are yield rates. So the higher the yield rate, the better. So in order to sort of protect their yield rate, a lot of times colleges will want to accept students that they feel are truly interested in them. So what they do is they sort of stalk you. So when you sign up for an information session, they record that. When you go for a visit, they record that and they sort of track you. Some of them even go as far as when they send you emails, they see if you open it.
Got it.
Right? So there is a way that you can find out if a school surveys demonstrated interest, and it's through something called the Common Data Set. But for schools that do take this into account, it is very important to engage with the school in some capacity. Okay. There's lots of different ways to do that.
Okay. So that can work in your favor. If you're demonstrating more interest, you're kind of helping to solidify some.
Yeah. Let's be honest. If it's between you and another candidate and academically you're neck and neck, you've shown the interest, you took a tour, you attended 2 informational sessions, this student didn't attend any, they're likely to pick the person that's shown the interest, right?
Makes sense. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Wow. So many. Yeah. And see, this is why there's so many elements and things to think about. It's very multi-layered.
There's a lot. It's very multi-layered. The famous line in this industry is "it depends," because there's so many different factors. Everything just depends on.
I say that a lot in my office though too. It's like I need context. Yeah, it depends. Yes. Okay. Well, I so appreciate you being here. I don't know, any last things that maybe we didn't hit on that I'm not thinking to ask about, or.
All I can say is, parents, be patient. It is a very emotional process for these kids. And oftentimes it is really hard for the student to really engage with the parents on this, because deep in their psyche, they know that they have to almost push this parent away because this is part of their growing up process. Right. And so that's why you hear that oftentimes there's a lot of tension between the student and the parent in the college application process, which is why so many people want to hire people like me. And just for the record, my own daughter, who's a senior, is not working with me. Yeah, there you go. If that's okay. She's working with a colleague of mine because it's just not healthy for us to do this together. Yeah, that makes sense. So you just have to be patient with your child, and also guide your child, but really let them lead through this, because ultimately they're the ones that have to be happy and thrive at the school that they end up at, right? Not the parents. Yes. So, all the tiger moms out there kind of got to take a step back and let the children really lead from their heart and be authentic about what's the best fit for them. Yeah. This is another example of us letting them build their inner compass and let them, right? Because at the end of the day, you don't want to be trying to navigate after 1 year of misery. Like, okay, now where do we go? Like, if we can let them lead it. Yeah. And, a lot of these parents think they want their kids to go to like these Ivy League colleges or, I have only met probably 2 kids that in my experience doing this that I think are good fits for like an Ivy school. Okay. It is not easy to be able to sort of live up to that expectation and thrive at an Ivy school. And again, I mean, I don't think I've said this, but I'll say this. What I believe with every fiber of my being is it's not the name on the diploma that determines success. It's what you do with your time at the institution that determines success.
Right.
So if you go to an institution where you feel like you're inadequate, you don't want to put yourself out there, you don't want to engage in all the opportunities, research, whatever, you're not going to thrive, and you're going to come out with what? Versus going to a school where it is a good fit, you're going to take advantage of the clubs, the research, the working with professors, whatever it may be. That's a student that's going to be able to launch into a successful career and future. So, yeah, go where you're going to thrive.
Well, thank you so much, Becky, for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
That's it for this week's edition of Project Parenthood. Remember to be curious, open, accepting, kind, and not judgmental on your conscious parenting journey. If you have any questions about this episode, about your parenting journey, and or topics you'd like to hear more about, please reach out to parenthood@quickanddirtytips.com or leave a message at 646-926-3243. Project Parenthood is a Quick and Dirty Tips podcast. Thanks to the team at Quick and Dirty Tips, Holly Hutchings, Davina Tomlin, Morgan Christensen, and Brandon Getchus. May you be happy, safe and protected, healthy and strong, and live with ease.